All right, Bashan, we
Okay. Well, thank you for joining the Demystifying the Lending Process webinar today. I'm Deshawn Harper Young, Regional Strategist for Business Banking. And we're happy to have you here, and we're glad that this session is being recorded so that you can go back at any time to take a look at it. We do plan on having time at the end to answer questions that you may have. So let's get started. We will dive right into the presentation. If you are currently operating a business and have applied for a loan, you've either received an approval for the amount requested, provided a counter offer, or lower amount or decline. Lending decisions are really based on the likelihood of repayment, taking into account the 5 C's of credit: character, capacity, capital, collateral, and conditions. While all banks take the 5 C's of credit into consideration, each bank have ratios that are derived from information of their portfolio that suits their particular bank and may underwrite differently. So we're going to go right into character. And I would say for a business owner, this is really good information just to always kind of have in your back pocket when you're thinking about applying for a loan, and things that you might want to take a look at before you apply for a loan to put you in the best possible position for being approved. So, character. This information is derived from your personal and your business credit report and really depicts your credit behavior. So, when managing your credit to a favorable state, you make sure that you are making payments on time for all your credit. You want to consider not borrowing excessively so that you don't get yourself overextended. So, when you're borrowing, have a reason in mind for borrowing. And for example, on revolving credit, or what we call credit card usage, a good threshold is like no more than 30% of availability should be used on the card. And if at all possible, make more than the minimum payments every month, but even better off, pay off the balances monthly. That creates a great behavior on how you manage your revolving credit. You will not ask for credit too often. Each time you apply for credit, it shows up on your credit report. We do know, however, take note, if you're applying for a car or mortgage, those tend to happen all the same day as uh, the person that's helping you out is looking for a mortgage company that can best suit your needs. That will be considered as one hit on your credit report. As it's the same with when you're looking for a car. But you want to make sure that you are really managing how often you're asking for credit. You want to avoid medical or other collections. Now, this may or may not be reported on your report. Generally, it will possibly get a report on your credit report if you have a default or a collections item. Other than that, these generally will not show up. This was a change that the federal government made some time ago, and so you just want to make sure you don't have any charge-offs. Paying business suppliers on time, just like you would handle your personal credit. Pay them if it's a line of credit, a credit card. Pay them just as you would do on your personal. Pay more than the minimum. Pay it off if you can. Paying utilities on time is similar to medical bills. Generally, they don't appear on your credit bureau. However, if you default, it may get reported. The second C of credit is capacity. So, capacity is the ability to repay the loan based on what we call a debt service ratio. The financial institution that you apply to will not extend credit when taking a look at your personal and business income against your debt if it will result in a strain on repayment. Here, what we have in front of you is a simple math equation you could use. While it doesn't take into probably some other nuances there, I always call this a high level mathematical problem that you can do on your own to see where you would fall into this ratio. And that's taking your personal income, which is your wages or any other income, such as Social Security, and then minusing out your personal debt payments and minusing out your personal taxes and living expenses. So you want to kind of estimate what that is. You want to add that to your business net income, and you grab this from your tax returns, plus your interest, plus taxes, add back your depreciation and your amortization to that number. You add those two numbers together, and then you would want to divide all business debt. Now, I would say make sure I would include in there the amount that if I'm looking for to add debt, what does that debt look like? And add that in there to see what your ratio will come out to be. So, to your right here, what we have is your debt service coverage ratio. Banks, we love ratios. This is just one of many. And as your business grows, there's other ratios that will be taken into consideration as well. But right now, we'll talk about debt service coverage. And it is expressed as a ratio, such as 1.25 to 1. And this is where the bank expects $1.25 in personal and business net income to every dollar of business debt. You may ask, what is that extra 25 cents? That is a cushion to protect us against economic downturns. So the next cap, the next C of the five C's of credit is capital. And how it's pretty much explained is the more you can put in, the less risk of default. And so when I think about capital, it represents a couple of things. How much do you invest in your business and the strength of your balance sheet? And your assets on your balance sheet would include cash on hand, stocks, bonds, any real property that you have, inventory, and equipment. And we will go through this quick example of how capital is looked at. So, for instance, your business got a new contract to custom design phone covers. It could be anything, but let's say phone covers. Your business would have to invest upfront in plastic and other materials needed to manufacture the product. At this point, and you've generated an invoice and shipped the materials. However, up to this point, you haven't received payment. In this case, expenses would need to be paid for using business capital. So banks expect to see 20 to 40% of the total loan that you're requesting come from the borrower. So never, I don't, I think in very few occasions will you see a bank finance 100% of your loan. There will always be some type of advance rate in lending when we take a look at providing access to capital. And so, capital, again, you want to make sure that you build a strong balance sheet that demonstrates to the bank that you have the ability uh, to pay out when you need to. And in that particular example, if you were to have, let's say, a line of credit, that is not considered asset, but it is a liability, but it is available to help you. Let's say if you need to pay for things in advance of receiving payment. So, collateral. Collateral is the backup plan for how the loan will be paid. And emphasis is on backup plan. Never do any financial institution want to retrieve collateral, liquidate collateral to pay off a loan. However, we do use it as a pure way of looking at the loan because if in the event that we have to for down payment, we want to make sure that there's some value that is there to help satisfy the loan. So in collateral, it could be real estate, it could be equipment, it can even be your inventory. And again, keep in mind if we rarely will provide 100% of capital for these things, and so there would need to be some again skin in the game from the business. We will secure the collateral with a lien on your business assets. Sometimes it's all business asset. Sometimes it's just particular to what that collateral is. So, say for instance, if it's a building, we may not take other assets like furniture and equipment and things like that. We're only taking the building as collateral for the real estate loan. If it's equipment, we're specifically looking at the equipment and not your furniture that you may have in your business. When a bank takes a lien that says all business assets, then that would include all business assets as identified on your balance sheet. Conditions include forces outside of your control, and these conditions will affect your loan application. So, at the top of this particular presentation is your company. In the next two lines, identify how your company can be impacted by conditions. So, the first one is political and regulatory changes. These are things that happen. Let's say, for instance, what's happening today with the tariffs. That's political. The tariffs and how they may impact your business. I would say stay tuned to all reporting that's happening out there so that you understand if you are getting your products and services from overseas, how does that impact your business? Because there now is a added cost. And what are your alternatives stateside to buying overseas? So you want to be real in tune to and make adjustments as quickly as possible to political and regulatory changes. Regulatory changes generally Congress comes up with something that sometimes it benefits the businesses, sometimes it becomes a burden to the business, but it has an impact, let's say, to the environment. So these things will impact the condition of your industry. The economic headwinds that I think of mostly is the pandemic several years back and the stock market. So with the pandemic, there were businesses that could not get financing because of their industry. Two come to mind. One were dry cleaners. Dry cleaners, the revenue for those businesses dropped dramatically because no one was working outside of their home. Trucking industry was another industry. While it started out being a good industry for banks to support, these were small 2 to 5 truck companies that started up because the bigger companies could not get back on the road. So small companies sprung up all over and they were really doing well. Well, the headwind changed and it changed pretty rapidly. And those businesses to suffer as the bigger trucking industries got back into the business. Those businesses that stayed in tune to this turn sold their trucks and went back to work for a company. Others that didn't pay as much attention to the terms um, in economics really got stuck with some loans that they could not pay, and so they either refinanced or they filed bankruptcy. Those are the type of things you want to always pay attention to. What is happening from an economic standpoint that's going to impact your business, and be able to pivot as quickly as possible. The competitive landscape, this is challenging, but also it has opportunities as well. And I'm going to piggyback back to the economic headwinds. While there were companies that really suffered, there were companies that popped up and pivoted and really did well during COVID. And so again, those folks were really paying attention to what are consumers buying and how can I pivot. And so when we take a look at competitive landscape, it can be challenging again, but an opportunity. So understanding the landscape involves staying aware of direct and indirect competitors evolving consumer how are consumers changing their behaviors? For example, are they more prone to be online shoppers or brick and mortar shoppers? And so understanding what are your competitors doing out there and what makes sense, what is winning out in the marketplace. The technological environment is huge as we think about the number of businesses that have sprung up on TikTok. And using technology, they created those businesses and they have been very, very successful. So, how does your business use TikTok if you have that platform? How does your business use Instagram? How does your business use I'm gonna say go out there on a limb and talk about LinkedIn. You know, LinkedIn is I think a best kept secret out there for some businesses, and most importantly, AI. AI has hit the ground running. I would recommend that everyone participate in some type of class on AI and how it could benefit your business. From marketing to other platforms, it is a technology that I say the genie is out of the bottle, is not going to go back in the bottle. So be willing to free resources that are available, webinars, seminars. Learn as much as you can because AI could give you a competitive edge. Understand social and cultural forces that may impact your business. Again, in our current political environment, there are social and cultural forces that are really having an impact on businesses. And geographic considerations, where are you located? Now, this may not be such a big deal if you are an online producer, but if you are a brick and mortar or locally located, how are you positioned? I am currently mentoring a business that uh, really got very, very lucky on a location, and the walking traffic in that particular neighborhood is huge. You probably could have put just about anything in that space, and there would have been sales on day one because of the amount of walking traffic. So always keep in geographic considerations of business and if you need to make adjustments. So these are all conditions that impact your business. And I will say that if you do not currently have a business plan, that you invest time in writing one and include conditions as part of building your strategies and things that you will keep an eye on for your business so that you can make adjustments sooner when things change. So there's some resources out there that are available free. When I talked about, finding as many free things as you can, we have a on our web program websites. It's a business insight, kind of like a newsletter. You can sign up to get it quarterly. It's not a monthly a newsletter, but it is quarterly. And most of, if not all of the newsletters, are kept on the website so that you can always go back and look at other business content that can help your business. We recommend that you pull your annual credit report by going to annualcreditreport.com. Take a look at your credit report and see what's on there. Take a look at those things that I talked about. How often are you showing up in a rolling 12 months uh, uh, applying for credit? How are you using your credit cards? Are you just paying the minimum on those credit cards? You may want to change that behavior or pay them off. Uh, Check to see if there's things on your credit report that should not be on your credit report. We are in a high, how do I say, high condition of fraud across the board. It is very rampant. So take a look at your credit report to make sure that your identity has not been stolen and that you can start working on that. There is a credit report out there for small businesses as well. It's called, I believe, the Small Business Exchange. There is a cost for that credit report. Now, if you do not currently have business credit that's being reported to uh, the TransUnion or Equifax, then there's no need you to try to look at that credit report. But if you do have business credit and know that it's being reported, you might want to invest in getting that report. Another website that is good is the consumer.ftc.gov to get more information on how you may be impacted by any government regulations. And the sba.gov/business dash guide is also a great resource for small businesses. Uh, it says although this information is provided in applications, disclosures, and other materials are available only in English. So be aware of that. So before choosing a product, please ensure that you have read and understood all the terms and conditions provided. If you're not comfortable with reading or completing an application in English, we recommend that you have a trusted translator or interpreter assist you in applying for an account. To my left here, I have named one of our great bankers here at BMO. I believe Harnett might be on the line. I can't see because of the presentation, but his information is available if you want to meet one-on-one to learn more about BMO's business products and services that we have available. Also, if you want to learn more about what other events that we participate in to assist small businesses, feel free to reach out to Harnett at 312-243-1521. With that being said, that is the presentation for today for this particular topic.